Hello, everybody. It's Jeremy Whaley here. Hope you're doing fantastic today. And I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Nelson Bran, and I'm excited to make some cool announcements with you today. If you haven't heard, I have relaunched my podcast, Think Rich Radio, and I haven't just done it myself, but I brought Nelson in as a co-host. And what I want to do in this video is I want to introduce you to Nelson and just kind of talk about some of the cool things that we are doing. So Nelson, welcome. I'm glad you could join me for this.
Thank you, my friend. It's a pleasure to be here, Jeremy. What I'm going to do, because I tend to talk too much, is I'm going to let you ask me questions directly, and we'll go from there, brother. How's that?
It's fantastic. I talk a lot too, which is why we're great friends, right? So about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, you and I did a video. We did a live presentation called Certainty in Chaos. And we introduced to both of our audiences some of the directions that we were moving. We talked about some of the moving parts in the economy and the world at large. And we set out our intention of some of the things that we were going to be working on. And one of the things that grew out of that is Think Rich Radio, the relaunch of this, where we are helping people understand better how to think through some of these changes. Another thing that grew out of it is a project you're working on called Delta Chain Labs. I'm transitioning a lot of the stuff that I'm doing at Trade Maestro. And there's a project that we're working on together that I want to talk about a lot in this video called AURUM. And so with that as a setup, why don't you introduce us just kind of high level to what is this project AURUM? It's a neo-banking concept. And how is it changing the way that we're going to think about banking?
I'll try to be brief about it. This project, AURUM Foundation, will be a neobank at some point. But rather than starting out with relationships with financial institutions and banks, instead they're putting forward products that are highly profitable for the average person to move their money from the bank onto the AURUM platform. And they're doing that in the form of generative adaptive bots. So these little machines trade the top 6 to 12 cryptocurrencies on a multiple of exchanges, sometimes as many as 100 at the same time. And in that trading, they've been able to successfully give a return of about 0.5% return per day, every day for the last 3+ years. And so that return equates somewhere between 14 to up to 17% return per month, not per year, per month.
And that's way beyond what any bank is ever going to provide. Now, we use the word neobank. Neobank is a term that's used for new banking. We've talked a lot on our podcast and in our other conversations about how the banking industry is being totally disruptive. And what is unique about AURUM, they've been around now for 3 years, and they've been working in this niche of bringing what CEO Brian Benson calls yield-based products to the general consumer, and really just totally blowing away what industry norms have been.
So much so that this disruption against a traditional bank, a traditional financial planner, a traditional financial institution, it's going to revolutionize the way that we treat money, the way that we have money work on our behalf. Because here in America, if we can yield a 6 to 8% return per year, typically we celebrate that. And in other economies of our past, that would have been a great yield. But because of the true rate of inflation out there, that's no longer a good enough yield. It's just not.
So what neobanking is doing, especially projects like AURUM, and we have several that we're looking at, so we'll be bringing some others in the future, but a project like AURUM, what it's doing is it's shifting the idea from you're going to set your money and forget it, and in 50 years you come back and there's more of it. And it's changing it to more of the model that the wealthiest among us have used for decades, which is I put my money to work and I actually live on the profits of my money. That is a radical idea for average middle-class Americans, even poor Americans, and people around the world. We're already seeing in third world countries throughout Central America, South America, Asia, Vietnam, all these countries. I know I'm mixing continents and countries, but we're seeing a massive adoption because countries and economies that historically were they had no hope. They're finding opportunity now through blockchain and through AURUM where they can pull themselves out of poverty. What can you tell us about that? You were just in Paris. You were telling me about this before we started here. You were just in Paris with people from some of these countries. Tell us about some of those stories.
Jeremy, to answer your question, before I go there, I want to talk about sovereignty, a big word that's important to you and I. So what's occurring in third world countries right now is that, assuming that the country's still impoverished, individuals are being allowed to make money on their own, and not a small amount of money, but very big amounts of money. And what happens in these third world countries, and we're going to see it occurring in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, is they're going to be able to dominate. They're going to be able to really grow and stretch because they're going to have the money now to start businesses and restaurants and build buildings and infrastructure. They're going to have the capital to do that. And in America, we're kind of not allowed to do that at this moment. In Paris, what I learned is I met people from all over the globe, including from so-called third world countries, that are doing that exactly. And I happened to meet a group of folks from Africa, very well-dressed, very well-spoken gentlemen that were telling me about some of the opportunities in Africa that are growing up now because of projects like AURUM, because they're able to invest in a project like AURUM and have an incredible return in a very short-lived moment. We're talking within months. Within a year, they've grown gargantuanly because, again, it's a 15% return per month every month.
Yeah, and that's not a guarantee. They don't guarantee that. It's just that this particular bot that you're referring to has now for 3 years generated an average of 17% per month. And so it's something that, while there's no guarantee to it, we can at least look back at it and say, historically, that's what it's producing. And I'm involved with it. You're involved with it. Every day we see the trades come through, and some days it's bigger than others. But over time, it's averaging about those rates. So let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about the products that AURUM has brought to market. You mentioned the idea that they're looking at becoming a neobank. That is the end result, a new world bank that offers traditional banking concepts, but in the new paradigm of blockchain Web3. But we've seen it launch with this idea of the bot, and they started off with this XAI bot is what they call it. That's the one we're referring to that generates about 17% a month, about 0.5% a day with remarkable consistency. When someone gets into that, not unlike a lot of investments, they tie up their initial capital for about a year, but you can take your profit immediately. You can transfer that to your personal wallet. You can, use that. It's your funds to work with, or you could reinvest it and you can let it compound. So there's a lot of flexibility there. That's one of the products that they have, but they're developing other products. They're working on exchanges. They're working on all the different dynamics that you would expect in a financial institution. But just recently, they've launched 2 more products I want to talk about. One is the Nero bot. The other is the real world assets. So let's not do that all at once. Let's break it down. Let's start with the Nero bot. How is that different than the XAI bot?
The XAI bot has been given a return of about 0.5% per day. So we've already said that it's somewhere between 14 to 17% per month. That's already radical. That's already unbelievable. The Nero bot, it transacts within an existing wallet that you would have and gives you the profits every day. Whereas the XAI bot gets your principal and holds it for a year, and you get your returns that you can take into your wallet on a daily basis. The Nero bot allows you to remove the principal at any point without penalty, should you decide to, and it's paying at 1.1% per day.
Okay, so that's right there. Let me translate some of what you just said, because your language will go over some people's heads. The Nero bot, let's start with the XAI. XAI, we deposit money into AURUM. They custody the funds. It's locked up for a year. The Nero bot, which is a new and improved version of the trading, they don't even custody the funds. You maintain custody in your wallet. The individual connects our wallet to the AURUM bot. it somehow reaches in, does what it needs, and puts the money right back. And it's producing at twice the rate of XAI. That's what you just said.
That's what it is. It's an unbelievable opportunity. It's one of the first of its kind. They happen to be in beta right now, so they're testing it. Whereas the XAI bot has 3 years of proof, of evidence of what it's been able to do. The Nero bot right now is in beta, and so far so great. Like you said earlier, nothing's guaranteed, but all things remaining the same, legally, peace, time, and energy, we're looking really good at this. It's looking very favorable.
Yeah, I agree. I think it looks fantastic. Okay, let's talk about the real world assets. In about 1.5 minutes or less, explain what real world assets are so that we can understand what this new AURUM real world asset is. Go ahead.
RWA stands for real world asset. And just as a small example, to not get overly technical, anything can be tokenized. Any idea, any business, any debt can be put into a cryptocurrency coin and brought to market. Assuming that it's a sandwich shop, and you say to me, Nelson, in order to open up the sandwich shop, it costs $250,000 to build out inventory, insurance, employees, et cetera, will cost another $100,000. I need $300,000, $350,000 to start this thing. We tokenize it, and we bring the token to market so people can participate in that particular franchise, in that sandwich shop. And you say to me, well, Nelson, I want everyone to be able to participate. Fine. So we bring to market a coin that's $30, one that's $300, and one that's $3,000. So that depending on a person's risk capacity, they're able to get a return based on how much they put in. So whether that's a return from the profits of the organization, whether there's a buyout moment where they're able to double or triple their money, and once they do, they're bought out of the idea and the owner can take back ownership of the franchise. There's so many different ways to be able to bring this to market. But what it does is it allows the regular person to participate in a business, in the building of a multi-use complex, of a mixed-use, let's say, complex, of an apartment house, of anything, because you tokenize it in chunks where it's equitable to everyone.
Okay, so what you just said is any asset. So building, gold, silver, sandwich shop, any asset can be turned into essentially a cryptocurrency. That is, the term we use for that is tokenized. And then that essentially splits up the ownership, and you can easily transfer that between two parties, and it becomes really, really easy to work with. That's what you essentially described. Now, using that concept of real world asset, what AURUM has done is they've done that with gold. Explain that.
So they started in Africa, and they went into the African countries and went into their vaults and said, why don't we get that idle gold to work? What we'll do is we'll put it on the bots to create a profit. And from that profit, you as a country get a percentage, we as AURUM get a percentage, and the would-be investor gets a percentage, a return every single month. So now that gold is generating money every single day.
So they took the asset that was sitting on the sideline doing nothing. They tokenized it, brought it into the AURUM ecosphere, and now they've put it to work in these bots. The same bots that we could take USDT and put it into, they're doing it with gold, and they're earning, did you say around 10% per month?
10% per month. The biggest advent to that I learned from my new friends from Africa was that there's the eligibility of picking up gold at 20 to 30% below spots for gold.
So when you buy the RWAs, help me understand it. Are you earning in US dollars, or you're earning more gold at a rate of 10%?
You're earning a percentage of USDT and a percentage in gold, both.
Is it an equal percentage, or like split 5-5, or how's that work? You know?
I don't recall the differences. I believe it's equal. I believe it is equal, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Okay, so let me translate that to people who are listening. If we think about putting our money in the bank and you earn a return on it, let's say hypothetically you got 10% a year. You had $1,000 there. At the end of the year, you have $1,100. You got $100 additional money in the bank. Do the same thing with gold. What if you earned 10% more gold? So you had 1,000 ounces of gold, and at the end of the year, you had 1,100 ounces of gold. That's exactly what you described, but you said it's earning at a rate of approximately 10% per month. Is that correct?
That is correct. So your example now is multiplied times 12.
Right. So somebody could take $1,000, 2,000, how much they wanted to, buy a chunk of gold, and the bot itself, the opportunity itself, will grow your gold bag, not just grow your US dollar bag, but grow your bag of gold. Is that an accurate statement?
That's perfectly correct. And as you and I have pointed out multiple times, we would rather grow in assets. We would rather be paid in assets than we would in a dollar that's inflationary. Be it BTC, be it Ethereum, be it gold.
So how do we buy gold at 20 to 30% below spot with this? Do you understand how that mechanism works?
I haven't gotten into those details. One of the gentlemen told me that you had to have a certain level in already in order to have access to that. So I haven't got into that depth, but I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, well, we'll uncover that one later. All right, I think this has given everybody an interesting introduction into what's happening with AURUM. I think everybody's going to be interested. Tell me really quick, what do you love about the leadership of this operation?
Before I touch on the leadership, there's something I don't want to leave this out. There's a lot of folks who are holding Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and a variety of cryptocurrencies on cold storage wallets, and it's sitting there idle. The same way that the gold is sitting in vaults for these countries idle. AURUM has a Zeus bot and an XAI Pro bot. One will trade USDT and USDC, and the other will do the cryptocurrencies I just mentioned and a few others. If someone has XRP or any of these other cryptocurrencies sitting idle in a wallet, consider moving that to AURUM for a return of, I believe it's 10 to 16% a month, rather than having it just sitting there in a cold storage wallet doing nothing. Now I'll answer your question.
Sorry, I got to put a button on that part. So basically what you just said is with another product they have called the Zeus bot, all these bots, we can do what we described for the gold, but we do it with these other cryptocurrencies. So with Bitcoin or Ethereum, etc. So you earn in that base currency, whatever that is. That's an amazing concept. And it really brings this whole idea of blockchain and neobanking together, where we're earning in the new assets. We all tend to think in US dollars, but that's only because we've been conditioned to do so. We're earning now in the new assets, which means we're growing our asset base, not just growing dollars, but we're actually growing that asset base. That's an amazing concept. So one of the things I really love about AURUM and a lot of these projects that we're working with. Tell us a little bit about the leadership of AURUM. The CEO is a guy named Brian Benson, and you've met with the leadership on your trip to Paris. So tell us what you found.
Paris was a fantastic opportunity. AURUM took me out there, so I'm super thankful for those guys to let me get out there. I got to meet some of the folks that have been able to climb up in the hierarchy of AURUM, who've invested some very big money into this project. So they gave me a real sense of trust and security based on the amounts of money they're putting into this project. I got a chance to meet Shane Moland, who's their director of marketing and networking. He's living in, I shouldn't say where he's living. He's living in Europe, I should say. But he came on board having been successful in other projects similar to AURUM, but not with the level of value he said that AURUM provides. And he came out of a very comfortable condition in order to represent AURUM because of the value that it has, their value statement, their roadmap, and their successes they've had to date. I saw the gentleman, the COO, speak, and I apologize, I don't have his name, I should have had it. Pretty brilliant guy who talks about the new direction AURUM is taking, where the bots are going to exchange within our personal wallets so that we can move principal as well as profits as we see fit without any sort of holding timeline. And then lastly, I met, like I said, some people that have been involved in the organization for a while. Sorry, I missed on Brian Benson. Brian has been with Binance, was with Binance for multiple of years. He helped grow their Latin American marketplace. So he grew something like 20% of the Binance audience through the Latin American marketplace. So he was responsible for that. He's also exited several $1 billion of sales in previous companies that he was involved in. So he's an enormous asset to AURUM, and it gives people a level of confidence to invest fully into this idea. So besides
Brian is the CEO. I don't want to skip over that. He kind of got the tail end there, but Brian is the leader of the operation, and he's a multi-decade veteran now of the blockchain industry and crypto. Like you say, he was with Binance. He helped grow Binance by a massive percentage when he was there. And not only did he do that, but he's brought a lot of those relationships into the AURUM ecosphere. So AURUM is competing on a completely different plane than most of these projects that we see.
No doubt. Beyond that, their global footprint is phenomenal. They're worldwide at this point. Their longevity is great. They've been around 3+ years. They're really looking to become more compliant as they move ahead beyond Dubai and Singapore and Hong Kong. Yeah. They're working on Canada and England as we speak. So they're doing phenomenal things. They're really here to serve, because the products they give the average person for only $120 buy-in is unparalleled.
That's kind of what I want to leave our listeners with. It doesn't matter if you've got $100 million or $120. Everybody can get started with some of these new opportunities. And if that's you have, hey, I got $100 and I can find another 20 to complete it. Let's get you started so that you guys can jump in. You can start learning about it and ask questions of me. I'm here. I'm involved. Nelson's involved. We're building a great community around this. And if you're listening to this right now and you think, hey, that sounds interesting, feel free to reach out. You guys know where to find me, Jeremy@trademaestro.com. Many of you have my cell phone numbers. Send me a text. We'll get on a call. We'll get you set up. There's a couple of hoops to kind of learn to get through the hurdle of getting involved. But I promise, blockchain is here. It's coming. It's more than coming. It's here. It's real. These neobanks are here. They are displacing the other banks. You're at the beginning of the curve, and it's super, super exciting. Nelson, thank you for joining me for this, and I'm super excited to introduce you to my crew. We're doing some awesome stuff. I'm excited about Think Rich Radio. I'm excited about all this stuff. You have any parting shots you want to leave?
No, just join us on this journey, guys. We're growing together as one. This is a collaborative effort, and truly we're building a community of substance and meaning. So take a chance, call Jeremy or call me or find me at brannelson@yahoo.com, BRANNELSON@yahoo.com, or at Delta Chain Labs Academy.com. We're here to serve, man. We're here to help. So call us at any time, and thanks for your time, Jeremy.
Thank you for being here, Nelson, and thank you to everybody for listening and tuning in, and I wish you all the best. Hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time, happy trading, and we'll talk to you soon.